I'm Sunny Goldberg, and welcome to Know Your Neighbors. I am sitting here today with Lisa Turtz, artist and Larchmont resident. And in keeping with the name of the show, I want to start from the beginning, and let's hear a little bit about you. I know you live in Larchmont. You moved there as a young...
I moved there when I was about to get married.
Ah.
I moved to Mamaroneck and then to Larchmont when my oldest was starting kindergarten.
So you've been here a while.
Yeah.
And you're an artist, but you're also a psychiatrist, correct?
Yeah. So I work 2 days a week in the Bronx, and then I started a private practice a couple of years ago in Larchmont as well.
Well, your art is so colorful, so beautiful, and so inspirational with dreams and flowers and things. I would think that your being a psychiatrist might inspire you too.
I think I kind of keep the two separate, but sometimes they go together in some of the paintings. And when you show some of the paintings, you'll see some of the dream paintings.
And so you have moved here, married, have had your children here.
Yeah.
And have they stayed in the Westchester area?
They're both in the city now. My youngest comes home on weekends a lot.
It's quite close,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And your family, were they surprised by your painting? Have you always painted?
I've painted since I was a child, but I think I wasn't as serious about it until college. And then when I first went to college, I was a pre-med and art major, but I loved painting.
Pre-med and art.
But then I dropped pre-med because I loved painting and art. And I went to get an MFA degree in painting before going back to
medical school.
Yeah, and taking science courses, taking pre-med classes at Columbia, and then going to medical school. So I was in school a lot.
You were in school a lot, is right, my goodness. And tell me about your involvement with Larchmont Temple and how this whole project, this beautiful project in the image of Genesis in the beginning, how did this start? Jeffrey
Rabbi Serkman
yes.
Was doing spirituality as a theme for the last year, and he had a group of people getting together to kind of throw out ideas and brainstorm for what to do about.
And Jeffrey is so kind and so nice and so much fun.
Yeah.
I can imagine it was quite a class.
Yeah, and so so I was thinking it would be fun to get all different ages together to do paintings or drawings of the Torah stories and put a book together of it. That didn't take off so much, but then I decided I'm going to do it.
Wow.
And then with getting together with...
Was Michael in that class with you?
Michael, it wasn't a class, it was just kind of a couple of sessions of
sitting around talking.
Yeah, and Michael was there too.
And we haven't mentioned Michael Feinberg, who actually put poetry to your magnificent paintings.
Yeah.
And which everybody will get to see in a little bit. But so you met in that class. It was an inspiration.
Well, I'd known Michael for a long time from because I've been going to Torah discussions, Hevra, at Larchmont Temple for many years, probably around the time my oldest got bat mitzvah. Shortly after that, I started going, so I knew Michael from that, and then a number of us were studying Hebrew. There was a class given at Larchmont Temple for beginning Hebrew. We took that, and then 3 of us kept trying to learn on our own after the class ended. We would meet in each other's houses, and so
still
it was Michael,
discussed
me,
and still
yeah,
with Midrash and Torah and the whole.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we're going to take a look at your process because Philippa Wharton did such a wonderful video, and I think it really helps people understand how you got to this wonderful place you're in.
Yeah, she's amazing.
So let's take a look at your art.
I get an idea for the paintings. I'll read through the Torah stories and I'll think, oh, this sounds good, I'll work on this one. And then I'll do a few sketches and figure out where I want to place things. Usually I'll have the radio playing on the classical music station because it's just calm and relaxing. And Koshi's usually in her, I have a bed for her in the dining room, so she'll usually sleep in there and keep me company. I might look on the internet for ideas of costumes. There was a costume exhibit at the Jewish Museum, and I got the book, and so I had all these old Jewish costumes that I could use for the paintings. This is the dress for the Rebecca and Isaac painting, and this is a sketch for it. This is Nefertiti for the Egyptian, the ones that take place in Egyptian times. I can find things on the internet, costumes, fabrics. I looked up flowers that grow around the Nile, and these are the purple flowers I like that they have at Trader Joe's. I just always like to have flowers around the house, so sometimes the colors of the flowers in my kitchen I'll use in the painting somehow. The flowers in the robes, I kind of look for fabric or wallpaper designs and then take off from there. Sometimes there'll be kind of things to do with dance or ballet. People will have pointed toes or ballet shoes on or be in a dance pose position. And then there'll be love in the paintings, like between people, or kindness, like gentle touches in the paintings. I used to paint with oils on bigger canvases, but having the studio in the dining room, it's easier to use watercolors right now, and I don't have to stretch these huge canvases. But I wanted it to be able to kind of mix things the way you can with oils, so I've been using watercolor pencils kind of as an undercoat, and then putting watercolors on top of watercolors. Sometimes I'll use a little gouache in it, and I've just been doing something with gold gouache where I'll put gold gouache under a darker color watercolor and then scratch into the watercolor before it dries so the gold shows through. With watercolors, it's not like oil painting where you can go back over something if you don't like it, so I'm kind of trying it out ahead of time and trying to think, well, do I want this color, do I want that color? Sometimes the sketchbook is kind of a mishmash of colors, just trying to practice and see if something looks good before putting it onto what's going to be the final painting. So these are sketches for Adam and Eve. This was the breath and trying to figure out eyes and hair. This was the angel in the Abraham, trying to figure out the crown and the fire and the fire reflected in the knife. And this is cheek colors and lip colors. And God's eye color, I wanted him to sort of have cataracts because he's so old. And these are trying to figure out the wing colors for the angels. I thought maybe I'd make the Nile more like exotic looking and more purplish, and I thought it would look pretty with on top of pink. So I was just trying. This is a flesh, this is pink madder lake, and rose pink and granite pink. So I think I'm going to use this color. These are watercolor pencils, so I'm penciling down some of the pink color, then I'm going to put water and make them into paint for sort of an undercoat of watercolor, and then let it dry and then put the purple on top because it looks pretty with the pink showing through. The color is my favorite part of painting, and I just love how colors get mixed up together and just how things just sort of form together and look beautiful.
I have to tell you, Lisa, that blew my mind. Color. I'm wearing color for you. Usually I wear black for these events, but I must tell, or black and white, but the color is so intense and magnificent. And I know we haven't really talked enough about the Torah and how did you get to those stories and you know?
Well, because the theme was spirituality for the year, I was trying to find stories that had angels or God in them. And I would just read through, I started with the Adam and Eve one, and then went to Noah, and then sort of just kept going and reading through the stories, trying to figure out which one would strike a nerve with me.
Did you bring back to the group what you were doing, or were they surprised about?
I would send emails with them sometimes to Jeffrey, or when Michael started writing poems about them, I would send him slides, attachments, and but not so much.
Did you get input, or just,
no?
just...
Well, sometimes with Jeffrey, I would. Sometimes I would ask him a question about the Hebrew, and I felt like it was like an old world community talking to a rabbi, and he would send back these beautiful emails, and it was of what the Hebrew meant.
So you were learning about the Torah, you're learning about the Hebrew language, and you're bringing it all together to tell these stories.
Yeah, because I was putting some Hebrew words into some of the paintings also, and I just wanted to make sure I was thinking of it the right way.
And some of those words mean several, I mean, shalom, hello, goodbye, peace. So, I mean, they have several meanings.
Yeah, so there sometimes when we were studying Hebrew, we would try to connect different, there would be 3 letters of a root for a Hebrew word, and then we would try to connect different words because there would be some kind of connection just because they had the same root letters, even though the vowels were different.
If only you were my Hebrew school teacher. I think I might have been inspired even more because that's so fascinating to think that you have all of these different inspirations from letters and words and, you know, the stories of the Bible, we kind of know them, but I looked at them completely different.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to sort of look at them and then do a takeoff on them. Like sometimes people will do midrashes, write stories from the stories, and maybe the paintings are a little bit of that, the way I see things.
And you chose your subjects?
Yeah.
And how did that happen? I mean, you just...
well, just from reading the stories and deciding which ones I thought would make a good vision. So when I first started, I wanted to do the whole portion in one painting. Yikes. So with Adam and Eve, I was putting the snake, the tree of good and evil, the tree of life, and God blowing breath onto them.
I love what you said, and we'll take a look at our next video, which I love what you said about the snake. You really don't like snakes, but that's quite an interesting snake that you made, and a beautiful snake. And so you took the story, you made it your own.
Yeah.
And or your own interpretation.
Yeah.
And Michael took words to put to that, but you have notes as well, and I found those very interesting in the book.
Yeah, I was trying. I had asked Michael if he would write reviews of the paintings because he's a writer, and he surprised me with the poems. And then
we got to take a look at the process now because it's really exciting.
Adam and Eve. I don't like snakes, so this one had to be beautiful. not frightening. A mixture of green and gold would do. He hides in the tree of good and evil, Tov and Ra, in the forest of Eden. The tree of life, Chaim, is a patchwork pattern of purple, gray, and gold. Eve wears a crown of flowers in her wild hair. Both Adam and Eve take a bite of the infamous apple. Alas, perhaps Eve is too wild for this garden. God blows the breath of life onto them, flecks of gold and white and light blue, like clouds and sky. Abraham's fete with 3 angels. 3 angels visited Abraham, angels with bird wings, the colors of sparrow, cardinal, and blue jay. Abraham prepared a summer picnic of flour cakes, a tender calf, and curds and milk on a red twill Victorian tablecloth for his angels. They sat under a palm tree, the terebinth of Mamre. I added wine to the festivities, for what is a party with angels without wine? And there can never be too much red to go with the scarlet color of cardinal wings. The angels told Sarah of the birth of Isaac. Sarah laughed, hiding behind her golden fan, and then denied it. I did not laugh. God was not pleased, and he pointed out, "Oh, but you did laugh." Sarah stood outside her Bedouin tent on an oriental carpet of reds and vermilions. In her tent, with a roof of Jewish stars, she could dream of the birth of Isaac. Jacob's dream, ladder of angels. Angels dance up and down a ladder of wrought iron with wings of scarlet, blue, purple, and gold. God plays the ladder like a harp. Jacob is asleep in a robe of blue and gold stars. The moon is but a sliver, and some of Jacob's stars have escaped to the night. Jacob awakens and says, "God is in this place, and I did not know it." Joseph, dreamer and dream interpreter. Joseph looks a little like Freud. Joseph's coat is patterned after the rug on the couch in Freud's office. Pharaoh is asleep, dreaming on a Victorian couch. His dreams are depicted in oblongs above him: 7 fat cows, followed by 7 lean cows, 7 healthy ears of grain, followed by 7 scorched ears. The baker dreams of birds picking at baked goods in 3 open-work baskets. The cupbearer dreams of vines blossoming into 3 clusters of grapes. And what of Joseph's own dreams? Look to the 11 sheaves bowing down to Joseph's sheaf, royally crowned in purple and gold. The sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him.
I loved hearing your notes. I really did. I must tell you, I covered the carpet. I want the robe. Not just your colors, the whole idea of hearing you talk about it. That was wonderful and very helpful. I know you guys are doing this show at Larchmont Temple. We'll talk about that, but I think it is so wonderful. That's why I'm so into contemporary art. I love knowing artists and what their thoughts are.
Yeah. I really am having a good time with these, and it feels as if you can keep going forever with all these stories that are in all the Torah stories. And
well, now we've referred to Michael, and I wonder if you could tell us how you met. I know it was in class or before, right before.
In the
at the temple.
Hebra, at temple in the Hebra Torah. I go almost every Saturday. I think I'm addicted to it, and Michael.
So Hebra Torah is
a Torah discussion where you kind of, Jeffrey usually leads it, and
it's after services?
No, it's before. I don't go to services.
Okay,
I just go to that.
Okay.
But it's at 9 o'clock Saturdays, and it's he picks out commentaries from rabbis, sort of with a point that he wants to make. But these commentaries are going back and forth. Like some of them are between a grandson and his grandfather throughout the ages. These rabbis talking to each other.
So you and Michael were both in this class.
Yeah, and then people make comments. So there are comments going all around the table.
Did you know he was a poet?
He had read some of his poems at one point in Hevra. He had written some poems, but I didn't know he was going to write poems about the paintings. Yeah.
And how did you work that out? Did he see them first?
They were, well, I had told Michael and Marguerite we were meeting once a weekend for Hebrew, and I had said I needed some time, I wanted some time to paint, and I thought, and I was going to drop out of the Hebrew study for a bit. And they would come, they were all excited about coming and seeing the paintings.
I see.
Michael, Marguerite, and Virginia, Michael's wife.
So you'd had enough of words, you were doing color
I
and paint?
was doing a lot of paintings, and they were getting all excited about them. And then after I asked Michael to write this review of the paintings, he wrote poems, and he started writing poems about each of them. So I would send him one, and he'd send a poem back.
And
really
how long
nice.
did that take him? I mean,
he would think about it, but he would write them fairly quickly. Sometimes I'd send him a painting and get a poem back within a week. He'd write them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I am very excited because Philippa did a video with Michael reading the poems and his British accent. Somebody speaking in a British accent could tell me anything. It's the most beautiful.
Yeah.
So, and hearing him read those poems and seeing the work is just quite extraordinary. So I am thrilled to be able to share that with our viewers.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at it, and then we'll talk about it after.
Okay.
Father Abraham lying down. Father Abraham lying down reaches past heaven. He dreams of multitudes. And behold, the word of the Lord came down. So he dreamed. He looked and heard. God's face floats in blood, but God's breath is everywhere. Ruach Olam. Pile on the carcasses, heifers, goats, rams and turtle dove, a young pigeon. Into the smoking furnace, in a tumult of presence, who brandishes the burning torch? Flames are wings to the one. Who cannot aspire to that nearness? Who cannot fear the great darkness? We're all adrift in the sea of ages. So are we joined. This is our first covenant. Hagar with child. Hagar is beautiful like the color red. Her belly is blessed. Her soul mirror speaks to her, to the dancing boy in her, through outstretched fingers. Scent of musk and roses, wings like feathers in silken quilts. Future, family and future. A well of pity flows and will flow to her. Our brother will mourn our one father with us. The binding of Isaac. God's voice flew on invisible wings. Abraham, Abraham. I am here, he said. Yes, Hineni, but I wish I were elsewhere. Isaac said, where is the sheep for the burnt offering? Abraham split in two. Isaac fell forever silent. Rich raiment of the angel's wings, a talit. Isaac and Rebekah. Again the angel opened a wing, an arm stretched out over the oldest story, the new fated couple. The camel didn't need to travel any further, resting on its haunches, happy to run from orange to ochre to brown. This love too will turn through many colours, like Joseph's coat. Jacob's dream. Jacob lay down and closed his eyes, and suddenly he saw God. We who still can only barely see might imagine an old Jew in a richly brocaded green tunic with gold lettering, tendrils and flowers. Imagine the face of the place of the world in a world that is not his place. Talk about a magician. The ladder is the thing. Angels on it dance and sing. They weave a destiny.
I am blown by his ability to put words to that magnificent art and the stories, and to make it, it really is quite emotional and quite beautiful. The most exciting thing of all is you guys are doing a show.
Yeah.
And I really want to make sure we talk about that. It's coming up very quickly. I mean, we're in the middle of March now, April 20th.
April 20th to 30th.
So it's 10 days at Larchmont Temple.
Yeah.
Everyone's welcome. And that beautiful book will be sold there with all proceeds going to Larchmont Temple. But will you be able to purchase things, or are you doing reproductions, or how are you doing that?
Well, if people are interested in posters, they could contact me. That would be something separate.
Separate.
Yeah.
And the show is in one particular place in the temple?
It's in the social hall.
Okay.
There's an
So
there's
when you
going to
walk
be
right in, you get to...
Yeah, upstairs, and there's a little opening. There's going to be a little opening on the 20th at noon, and then there's going to be a Havdalah service
And then it will be
at
open.
6 o'clock on April 27th.
And so from
and a
April 20th
reception.
to 30th, the temple will be open all day and into the evening.
But well, you might have to check, because sometimes they do
They
move
can check
things
on Larchmont
around.
Temple's website, and we will let them know as well. But I have to thank you, because this is probably one of the most unique shows. I've been doing this a long time that I've ever done, and I hope people get to see these things in person, because we tried to do justice, and I think Philippa really did. But your art is just magnificent, and I really hope everybody gets to Larchmont Temple April 20th through the 30th. And thank you, Lisa, so much for sitting down to talk.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.